Hello everyone, this is Sir Limor and I am here to discuss to you the module 2 which has a topic of solving quadratic equations. So at the end of this video lecture, you are expected to solve quadratic equations by extracting the square roots, factoring, completing the square, and then quadratic formula. So let's start. So solving quadratic equation. Sabi doon, the solution of quadratic equation is called the roots of the equation. Ano nga ba yung solution and roots of the quadratic equation? So ito yung mga values ng mga variables when substituted into the equation will make the equation true. Also, take note that the quadratic equation has at most two roots. Anong ibig sabihin nun? It can be one or two solutions or roots of the quadratic equation. To visualize these concepts, let us have an example. For example, we have x squared minus 4 is equal to 0. So mag-iisip tayo ng values ng x na kung saan when substituted and subtracted from 4 will become 0. Ano kaya? So those are positive 2 at saka negative 2. To check kung tama ba yung sagot natin. Okay? If x daw is positive 2, then when 2 is substituted to our original equation, which is x squared minus 4 is equal to 0, okay, that will become 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, 2 is a solution of that equation. How about negative 2? So if x is equal to negative 2, then when negative 2 is substituted to our original equation, so that after evaluation, that will become 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, negative 2 is also the roots or the solutions of the quadratic equation. Again, the solutions and the roots of the quadratic equations are the values of the variables when substituted to the equation will make the equation true. Okay? So there are different methods for us to solve quadratic equation. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the two methods. The first is extracting the square root and the second is factoring. So let's start with the extracting the square roots. So saan mo nga ba ginagamit ng extracting the square roots in order for us to get the solution or roots of the quadratic equation? So ginagamit po ang extracting the square roots kapag incomplete yung ating quadratic equations. Anong ibig sabihin ng incomplete? Kapag there is a missing term in our quadratic equation. So incomplete quadratic equations where there is no existing specifically linear term in the form ax squared plus b is equal to 0. Okay, may nakita kayong equation in the form of ax squared plus c is equal to 0. In this case, gagamitin mo si extracting the square root para makuha ang roots ng ating quadratic equation. So there are steps for us to extract the square roots of the quadratic equation. The first step is isolate the both existing terms from each side of the equation in the form of ax squared is equal to z. So sabi daw doon, ang unang step ay from ax squared plus c is equal to 0, standard form, ilalagay mo siya or ilipat mo siya sa ganitong form, which is yung ax squared is equal to z. Next step, extract the square roots from both sides of the equation. To visualize these concepts, let us have a concrete example. For example, you are tasked to solve for the roots of this equation. X squared minus 25 is equal to 0. So, walang linear term, okay? Walang linear term. So, ang existing terms lang are quadratic terms and constant. In this case, so, ang gagamitin mong method will be extracting the square roots. Again, ang gagamitin method, extracting the square roots. Okay? So, let us have the solution for this problem. First, write the problem. X squared minus 25 is equal to 0. And then, sabi daw dun sa step natin kanina, so from that form, dapat i-isolate mo si quadratic term and then si constant term to the both sides of the equation. By using or applying the addition property of equality, this will become x squared is equal to 25. Or simply, yung negative 25 natin dyan, ilipat natin sa kabila, that will become positive 25. Next step is square root both sides of the equation. So, i-square root natin si x squared, yung quadratic term natin, and i-square root natin din si constant, yung 25, that will become square root of x squared is equal to square root of 25. And then solve for x. So our x will be positive negative 5, wherein the roots are x is equal to 5 and x is equal to negative 5. Bakit po naging ganyan? Kasi po, kapag square root tayo ng isang number and we apply the square root property, so hindi lang po tayo mag-yield or magre-result sa positive 5. Kasama din po si negative 5. Therefore, if we're going to square root of 25, that will become positive 5 and then negative 5. So by applying square root property, let us have another example. So in this example, you are going to solve for the solutions or roots of 2x squared minus 72 is equal to 0. Again, nakita mo ang existing terms lang ay quadratic term at saka constant term. Therefore, ang gagamitin mong method agad ay extracting the square root. But in this example, meron tayong numerical coefficient sa ating quadratic term. Paano kaya yan? So let us have the solution. So first, copy mo yung problem. So, anong gagawin sunod? Isolate our quadratic term to the other side of the equation and our constant term to the other side of the equation. So this will become 2x squared, yung negative 72, lipat sa kabila magiging positive 72. And then, sabi daw doon, dapat walang kasamang numerical coefficient yung ating quadratic term. So tatanggalin natin si positive 2. So paano siya tanggalin dyan? So by dividing both sides by 2. So divide natin both sides by 2. So ang sagot natin dyan is x squared is equal to 36. Next, square root both side. Ni-square root ko na agad. So square root of x squared is equal to square root of 36. Again, by applying square root property, our value of x is equal to positive negative 6. Or the roots are x equals to 6 and x equals to negative 6. That is the correct answer. So next method will be factoring. So factoring is a method used to solve a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 or ax squared plus bx is equal to 0. So gagamitin mo si factoring kapag kompleto ang iyong mga terms from quadratic term, linear term, at saka constant term. Or gagamitin mo siya kapag existing si quadratic term at existing naman si linear term. Okay? So paano yung steps natin for factoring? The first step will be write the equation in standard form. Okay? That is a must. Dapat yung equation mo is written in standard form. Next step, factor the trinomials, and after that, solve for the unknown variables. Okay? To visualize this concept, let us have an example. So, solve for the roots of x squared minus 5x is equal to negative 6. So, kompleto siya, tama? In this case, you are no longer going to use extracting the square roots. You are going to switch for factoring. Okay, let us have the solution for this problem. So, copy x squared minus 5x is equal to negative 6. Okay, the first thing to do in factoring method is to transform the equation in standard form. So, dapat naka-equate ang ating equation sa 0. Hindi pa siya naka-equate, tama? So, ang gagawin natin dyan, lilipat natin si negative 6 sa kabilang side ng equation. That will become positive 6. So, we have x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. So, mayroon ka ng standard form ng quadratic equation. After that, factor the quadratic expression. Ano yung expression natin? Ito po. X squared minus 5x plus 6. Yan. Factor natin siya. Okay? To factor out, kapag trinomials yan, ibig sabihin, your factors will be the combination of two or the multiplication of two binomials. Okay? So in this case, the factors of x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to x minus 2 times x minus 3. Kung gusto mo i-check kung tama ba ito yung factors mo, i-multiply mo lang yan, dapat ang sagot yung nasa taas niya. Okay? So after mo ma-factor, the last step will be solve for x. Okay? Solve for x. Paano siya i-solve? So iso-solve mo siya separately. Equate mo yung unang factor mo, which is x minus 2, sa 0. That will become x minus 2 is equal to 0. And then yung second factor mo, x minus 3, is equal to 0 din. Okay? So, paano siya solve? Ilipat mo lang sa kabila. So, negative 2 magiging positive 2. Itong negative 3 naman magiging positive 3. Therefore, your roots are 2 and then 3. That is correct. Okay, that is all for this video lecture. Again, for my reference, we have Math 9 module based on MELCS, week 1, quarter 1. The specific topic is solving quadratic equations by using extracting the square roots and factoring.